Who missed me? Evening, everybody. My short absence, which had a lot of things to deal with. Um, yeah, when you're on like all the modeling sites, a lot of scammers try to scam you. I didn't get scammed, but I knew what was up. And, being an ex-firefighter, I have quite a few friends in law enforcement because first responders interact and hang out together. And I knew the proper channels to go to, and I had to do all the paperwork to report the phishing. And being a man of integrity, I actually reached out to the agencies that these scammers were attempting to be. It's pretty cool. One of them, I left like an email, and the CEO called me back like 10 minutes later, and we talked for a half hour. So that's, you know, and he checked out my website. It's like, maybe, when you need someone, it's like, there, that's got to be a good sign. He's like, oh, thanks for letting me, know this person's pretending to be me. I'll do a separate video later for, you know, young models and dealing with scammers, because I know what scammers are. Like I said, I have friends in law enforcement, but I didn't have to deal with this in the old days because none of this was online in the mid 2000s. But video I really wanted to do, and it's long overdue, and I haven't done one in a while, and it's a witchcraft video. So if you don't like witchcraft or it makes you uncomfortable, you don't need to watch any more of this, because we're going to talk about witchcraft. And this video, I'm going to talk about my main deity, my matron deity, my queen, the goddess Lilith. Yeah, took this off my altar. Lilith. That's the face of free will and doing what you want and not caring. And draconic wings are always badass. So, Lilith, queen of the witches, the queen of the succubi, the queen of the night, queen of destruction. Oh, she has more titles than any queen ever has, and rightfully deserved. She's a queen in her own right, often called the consort of Lucifer. That I guess there's some truth to that, but she's a queen in her own right. So Lilith is arguably an extremely, the most perhaps controversial female figure in any religion. She originates in Jewish folklore. She's not technically mentioned in the Bible. She's alluded to, but her name doesn't exactly appear. But she is in the Midrashic, I might have pronounced that right, I'm not really good at Hebrew, text. And she's been debated pretty much since, the Torah was created. So, what's Lilith's background, you say? Popular belief is that she, in fact, is the original woman, the first wife of Adam that they don't want you to know about. Why is that? Well, if you are of the Abrahamic faith, you were taught that Adam was created from clay. With me so far? So was Lilith. Yeah, they were both created from the same clay. They were told they were equal. Adam wasn't, really doing right by Lilith, so she's like, you don't get none. And Adam went crying to the big guy, saying, like, she won't submit to me, make her do it. And the big guy basically said, well, Lilith, you have to lie under him. And she's like, wait a minute, you told us we were equal. She's like, well, I changed my mind. You have to submit to him. And she's like, no, no, no. See, strong women say no. She did. She was the only one at the time. There was no support system for her, and that was her crime. She's like, no, I'm not going to be Adam's submissive little sex slave. Go ahead, throw me out. And she left the garden, wandered around, and met some interesting fallen angels, and became the mother of demons and the mother of succubi. And they're maligned too, but they get their own video. We'll talk about my girls later. So that's really where it begins with Lilith. She is the original woman who was told she was equal. The big guy lied to her, changed the rules on her, and instead of being backed in a corner and being like, well, I can't say no, she just left, which is really badass when you think about it, because the bravery that must have took to just wander in the desert and to leave paradise simply because, to have the free will and the courage to be like, no, you're not going to like change the rules on the fly. Like, this is only going to get worse. I'm out of here. And then thus, Eve was created from Adam's rib to be submissive to him because she was created from a part of him and not at the same time as him, as Lilith was. And Lilith was like, no, I'm equal to you. It's not that Lilith wanted to be the boss. She's just like, no, I get as much say as you do. And like, no, and that's why, as I mentioned, succubi are the daughters of Lilith. That's why, for those of you, if you ever think, you get that paralyzing feeling in your sleep, guys, and you feel like a woman's on top of you. Yeah, succubi are always on top because they don't want to lie beneath, because that's submission, and they don't want to. Well, unless you're bound to them and you're in an actual like spiritual relationship, but that's different. We're talking about random encounters, and that's for another video. So I won't get into her wandering in the desert and how she became, because I don't want to get too deep into her story. I just wanted to get her origins out. And Lilith is, most commonly found in Jewish folklore, as in many forms of witchcraft, and she is also the origin of the Sumerian succubus. Yeah. So Lilith in the modern world is mostly seen as a power symbol. Sorry, I had to take notes of this. I want to get it right. It is for my queen, after all. There's now a new, in more recent years, there's a more open-minded nature towards Lilith as a symbol of power, as the destructive, vengeful figure that takes vengeance on those that harm others. And oh yes, she does, and rightfully so, because long before I formed a bond with Lilith, I did, invoke her to do hexes on rapists, which she will do, because rapists deserve to be hexed. And Lilith's like, so hurt some scumbag guy, who raped some girl who's now destroyed. Yeah, I'll do it. It's like, what do you need, Lilith? A little roses, a little wine. But yeah, she's more than happy to do that. Many feminists see Lilith as the first independent woman, because she is. Lilith does what she wants when she wants. There's no rushing her. If you go to her for a spell, she does it in her own time. I get away with that a little more than most Lilithans, but that's because I'm a boy, and I know that doesn't make any sense. But most of the witches that their main deity is Lilith are female, and those that are male are typically gay men, because Lilith is a symbol of equality, and she's known or maligned for a lot of it to be like, well, she must hate men. No, not really. Lilith doesn't hate men. She hates men that believe that they can own women, that women exist only to serve them, to be their property, which Abrahamic faiths are all about. But she's quite the loving mother for men like me, and very protective. And she deals with my impatience quite well, because, like I said, she's got a lot of daughters, not too many sons. So I kind of get away with being like the needy toddler, like, over here, I want attention. Yeah, which is good. And whenever I'm in a trance and invoking her, I get swayed back and forth. She's a very comforting presence to me. If you try to invoke Lilith, you will know if she's there. Lilith is not subtle. When she first makes her presence known, it could be through many. It's usually not going to be an apparition at first, but you'll get this strong primal sense of something primal and very powerful present. You'll do one of those. I did. Yeah, she's not subtle. You'll be filled with sexual desire, because Lilith is all about lust and sexual desire and sexual liberation and sexual freedom, but on her terms. It's the key thing. Yeah, it's another way you'll know, when you're in the presence of Queen Lilith. So basically, in the modern context, Lilith is a symbol used, or a goddess that's invoked by many witches seeking many things. If you are all about free will, vengeance, equality, destroying double standards, getting what you want, making people who have hurt others pay for what they have done, rightfully so. Lilith is a good goddess for you to work with. I don't want to get too deep into this because this is made for people who aren't really into witchcraft, but it's important to note people say how evil she is. Keep in mind, Lilith is a dark arts entity. She's not a black magic entity. I mean, she does black magic, but the difference being is Lilith has a dual nature. She can be, that very loving, very protective figure. And then she can also be a source of vengeance and wrath when the situation calls for it, when that's the appropriate thing to do. She's not just seeking to hurt people, and she's very protective of those that do form a bond with her, both men and women, although it's mostly women. Yeah, she's a very protective force for those that try to hurt the ones who venerate her, who do form a pact with her. So yeah, she's very misunderstood. So you know, don't judge Lilith until you try to talk to Lilith. And especially women, you probably have a good shot at, evoking her to see if you can form a bond or not. Men, it's all about how you treat women. It really is. It's what it comes down to. If you treat women like shit, she's gonna mess you up. She's gonna mess you up bad. But if you're, I don't know, like me, she'll, baby you like a little toddler, like her little toddler son that she wants to protect and look after. And that's how it is with me. But yeah, feminists should definitely look into Lilith, because without Lilith, there would be no feminism. She is the first feminist. She is the first independent woman to stand up for herself and to say no and to be empowered. And she did it with, not knowing what was waiting for her outside of the garden, not knowing what was going to happen, but she knew, that whatever lay out there on her own terms was a better choice than essentially being enslaved. So, no matter how you feel, you got to admit that's brave. That's pretty badass. So keep that in mind as well. I hope this brief overview on the goddess Lilith was informative. I will do subsequent videos on her eventually, but this was long overdue, and I wanted to get the basic information about Lilith out there without making this, too complicated for seekers and without making it too long. So remember, trust your intuition if you feel like Lilith would be a good goddess for you to work with. And yes, Lilith very much values integrity, because when you make a deal with Lilith, you better hold up your end of the bargain. So, if you want empowerment and free will, hail Lilith.